welcome to Cereal at Midnight. My name is Heath, and I'm glad you're here because I want to talk to you about the first ever Atlanta Comic-Con. We have just closed the books on the first Atlanta Comic-Con, and it's interesting. I had a really good time. There was some really good things, and then there were some things that weren't awesome and hopefully can be addressed in time. So this is my Atlanta Comic-Con convention report. I went on Saturday. This was a 3-day convention with a 4th day, like Thursday was a preview night, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This convention was presented by a company called Imaginarium. And this was their first one in Atlanta. They have done other conventions in other parts of the region. I think there's a Tampa Comic-Con, maybe in the Midwest. I seem to remember like Kansas City or something like that. So they're not new to conventions. I think they've been doing this since about 2010, but it's the first time they've brought it to Atlanta. And I really feel like they used their experience and the relationships that they've made to make this a big media convention. Because it says it's Atlanta Comic-Con, but it's really pop culture, media, geek culture convention. They had a ton of celebrity guests that I also gather are connections that were made from past conventions. So just to read who the guests were really quick, they had Sean Astin, you know, the Goonies, Lord of the Rings, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Nichelle Nichols from Star Trek, Matthew Lewis from Harry Potter, Carrie Elways, Ray Park, Leah Thompson, Sean Young, Renee O'Connor from Xena, Brianna Hildebrand, Austin St. John, Power Rangers, Carlos, here's the voice actor section. Carlos Alazraqui, he's also in Reno 911, but he's the voice of Rocco from Rocco's Modern Life. I think he was the Taco Bell Chihuahua, like back in the day too. Bill Farmer, who is the voice of Goofy. Roger Bumpus, who's the voice of Squidward, SpongeBob. David Hayter, the voice of Solid Snake from the Metal Gear series. Linda Larkin, who was Jasmine from Aladdin. Paige O'Hara, who was Belle from Beauty and the Beast. Charles Martinet, who is Mario for Nintendo. Jeremy Shada from Adventure Time. Billy West, who's like he's Doug and one of the M&Ms, and like Billy West, Futurama. He's everywhere. And then someone called Yaya Han, I think is how you say that. I'm not familiar with this person. I think she's a professional cosplayer who just travels and has kind of gained notoriety as a professional cosplayer. Did I mention Jim Cummings? Because Jim Cummings is like the ultimate voice actor. He's one of my absolute favorites. Darkwing Duck. He's Winnie the Pooh. He's Tigger. Jim Cummings is amazing. So that's impressive, right? For the first ever Atlanta Comic-Con. That's a sweet guest list. But here's the thing about Atlanta is that Atlanta has Dragon Con, which is a huge convention. It's now like a destination for everybody. Like it used to be regional, but Dragon Con, I think last year they did 80,000 people. So it's not quite nipping on the heels of San Diego Comic-Con or anything like that, but Dragon Con takes over Atlanta when that thing happens at the end of August, beginning of September. So, but Atlanta also doesn't seem to be able to keep a comic book convention going year after year. Dragon Con is not a comic book convention. There are comic books there. There's a small comic book presence, but it's mostly media. But that's kind of what this was. So I'm not sure. Like, we're calling it Comic-Con, but it's kind of a media convention. And I should point that out too, because there's as you're walking the convention floor, I am obviously a comic book fan, right? Like, I'm there to dig through the bins. I have my list of what I'm looking for. Not a ton of comic books. There was, I didn't count, I'm guessing about 8 comic book booths. There might have been more than that, but I don't think there were. And there were not a lot of bargains to be found too. Like, that's the thing too, is that I go to all these conventions in the past, and you come home with like bags and bags and bags of comics, but there weren't a lot of deals. There were a lot of people with $5 booths, like $5 boxes of comics, where I don't mean like the box of comics was $5. I mean each comic was $5. There were tons and tons of people with dollar boxes of comics too, where you can flip through the long boxes and everything in there was $1. But as I'm flipping through here, because I flipped through every one of them, you're seeing a lot of issues of stuff that nobody wants, like Brigade from the 90s, a lot of that early Image stuff, old issues of Prophet by Rob Liefeld, and, you know, like, those didn't move in the dollar boxes 10 or 15 years ago. I sure don't think they're going to move now. as we get even further from that period in comics. Like, I don't think there's a lot of nostalgia for that. Anyway, I don't know. There were a few people that had 50-cent boxes. There were 2 booths. I found 2 booths that had 50-cent boxes, and I did find some stuff in there. I spent a total of $9 on comic books at the comic book convention, which is kind of crazy to me. And I'll show you what they were at the end of the video. But as far as the other aspects of the convention, this was like the rise of the mystery box at the con for me. Like, I've never seen, it's been a few years since I've been to a comic book convention, but I was not prepared for how much junk that there was. Like, the last conventions that I've been to, there's not a ton of junk. It's mostly shopping and vendors and comics and t-shirts and stuff like that. This convention had like a 4-booth space of mystery boxes, and they were like $30, $40, $50 a piece for these mystery boxes. And I was watching some people open them up, and it's just junk. It's like a pair of socks, a coffee cup, and like Funko Pops that won't sell on their own. And I'm like, why don't you just go buy what you want? But that's the mystery box thing, so I don't know. You know, if you like mystery boxes, I'm not putting it down. I just don't necessarily understand dropping $50 on a mystery box, which people were doing in large numbers at this convention. So the big part of what I think this con had to offer was the celebrities. You could go, obviously you go get the autographs and the pictures with the celebrities, which I don't personally do at this point, but I understand the appeal, absolutely. But I'm into the panels. I like to go to the panels and see the celebrities. One of the big problems with this convention was at the panels. Now, organization was not the problem because all the panels were on one hallway of the convention center. You go, like, all the smaller panels were on the right side. So there was, you know, like your podcasting panel, your cosplay panel, the future of Doctor Who panel, like that sort of thing. Like, that was all on the right side of the convention center. And then to the left, on the other side of the hallway, is like one big hall. C114 was the name of this hall. And it was so big, which is fantastic because you want to have plenty of seats for these people who are trying to get into the panels. You never want to have to turn anybody away. So they had more than enough seating for everybody. I mean, like, more. They probably had 4 times the seating that they needed, which is good. But the problem with the panel is that this hall, C114, so wide, so tall, and the sound system was so bad that the echo in that room made it so you really could barely make out what the person was saying. I mean, it was like, hey, is everybody ready to... Like, that's not an exaggeration. Like, it was like that. Like, you're really straining to hear, and you'd catch, you know, 70% of what was being said, and sometimes it would just be lost to the room. They did a Twisted Tunes in that room, which is when voice actors the voice actors sit at a table, and then they read like a movie script, like a fake movie script or whatever, in the voice of different characters. So you have all these voice actors, and they are doing their characters and other characters to read this movie script, and it's hilarious. There's a YouTube channel for Twisted Tunes, so check that one out if you're not already familiar with it. But the voice actors for the Twisted Tunes were commenting about how bad the sound was, and how, like, Carlos Alazraqui, if I'm saying that right, said, are you guys hearing us okay? Because we can't even hear ourselves. All we hear is wah, 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 wah. And it's true, because it sounded like the panels were being, like, mic'd with a karaoke machine or something. Like, it was like a very small speaker. Obviously, no video screens, nothing like that. It was very... it was not ideal. It was not ideal at all. So I went to 3 panels in that one area. I saw Sean Astin, who was wonderful. He was funny and engaging, and he has, you know, I've seen his panels on YouTube and all this sort of thing, but he still made it feel fresh, and he was nice to people. I also did the Twisted Tunes, which was amazing. I don't know if that'll hit YouTube because the audio quality was so bad. And then we went to the Ray Park panel. Ray Park, Darth Maul, X-Men, Ballistic, X versus Sever, if you know what I'm talking about. Thumbs up, y'all. So Ray Park was amazing because I've seen him on all the Star Wars celebrations and everything, but I was amazed by, like, people would come up to the microphone and ask questions, and he was just locked in. Like, the whole time he's answering questions, he's talking directly to who asked that question. Super respectful. And it was just like, it was high class, you guys. Like, it was very impressive. I will say, like, reasonable, like, price wise, very reasonable. It was the whole thing, like if you wanted to do the entire convention, was $60 per person. The best part about it is that kids 12 and under get in for free. And that's really what was important to me, because I've done these things, right? I want to be able to pass it on to her, instill that love of geek culture. I don't personally cosplay, but she is very interested in that, and now she got to see all these cosplayers, which the cosplay was fantastic. It was in full force, where the comics weren't necessarily what I had hoped, the comic book presence at this. And they did have comic book creators, I should mention. They had a few. They didn't have a ton. They had about 10 comic book creators. But whereas the comic book presence kind of was not what I was hoping for, cosplayers, like if you're going for cosplay, it was everywhere. These people were doing great work, beautiful costumes that look like, so many of them look like they took so much time. It was a great cosplay destination. But I wanted to instill that, and I wanted to share this experience with my family, with my daughter, who's now coming into that. She's 12, so she's able to come into this world. And as a comic book convention, geek culture convention, Atlanta Comic-Con was a big success as far as like creating a world where you can go and immerse yourself into geek culture for 3 days. They did it. They knocked it out of the park. Everything was organized well. You can tell that they've cut their teeth in other areas. You can tell that this was not their first rodeo in terms of organizing comic book conventions. So where the faults were, like with the sound system, those were more venue based and not organizationally based. I think the organization was really good. You had we had wristbands. Every room we went in, people were watching to see if we had that wristband. So there was not like, it wasn't like you're sneaking anything by. They were watching. Part of your mission, they had a free arcade. They had about 20 arcade cabinets. They were all set to free play. Some really classic ones in there. They had like Galaga, Miss Pac-Man, Donkey Kong. They had some multi-cabinet, like multi-arcade machines in there with like 6-8 games on each one. They had some classic Atari stuff, a Centipede, like an original Centipede machine. I played the Superman arcade game, which I do not remember. I might have missed that one, but that game is bad. You guys, the Superman arcade game is really bad. I'm like, so Superman's in it and like nobody else? Like where's Darkseid or Brainiac or like any of this other stuff? I could maybe I didn't play far enough into it. I think I played to the 3rd level because it was free. But even at free, like it wasn't interesting enough for me to stand there and want to play it. So that is what it is. They also had Optimus Prime, like the movie version of Optimus Prime, the official tour 18-wheeler version of Optimus Prime, whatever. I didn't even take any pictures of it because I've seen that thing. And by the way, that's not my Optimus Prime. So but that was nice that they had that there. They had a lot of food there. Chick-fil-A was there, Papa John's. There was no chance of going hungry at the convention. So also free, they were giving out posters to everybody who had an admission. So I grabbed one of these. My daughter grabbed one of these. This is by Scott Collins. He was there as well. I was going to get him to autograph it, but I just didn't happen. Every time I walked by, either he wasn't there, or there were too many people there. But this is pretty sweet. It's like an Infinity Gauntlet kind of a thing. You got Thanos there. Thanos is my spirit animal. And then like all the like Wolverine's down here in his brown costume. So that's cool. And then it's got the dates at the bottom. So I grabbed one of these. My daughter grabbed one of these. This will probably end up on the wall at some point. I'll have to frame this up. Like I said, I spent $9 on comics. Like I came prepared to shop, and I ended up not getting a lot of stuff. Aside from the comics, I did pick up a shirt because I wanted to support the cause. I also bought a hoodie for my wife because here's the thing, a lot of conventions are really hot. This one was really cold. Like it was very chilly in the convention center. That's actually a good thing. It better to be hot than to be, better to be cold than to be hot. And hey, they sold an extra hoodie because my wife was cold and she liked the hoodie. Like she likes the design too. This shirt was $20. I think the hoodie was $30. So it is what it is. But $9 on comics, and I will show you what I got. So I filled in some gaps in my Cable collection. I got 3 issues of Cable from. I have a substantial Cable collection. Cable used to be like the butt of jokes now, or used to be the butt of jokes, but now that Deadpool's out, like Cable's cool again. It's really weird. I picked up the adaptation of Star Trek 3 from DC Comics. Remember, and then. Lastly, this is my favorite thing from the convention as far as like shopping wise. This is what made it worth it, you guys. I picked up Atari Force issues 1 through 14, the complete unbroken run 1 through 14. I think this is a 20 issue series, but y'all, I love me some Atari, I love me some DC Comics, and I love the 80s, and they have that smell, like you can smell, it smells like old episodes of Knight Rider is what it smells like. It smells like Atari. So now I'm close. I got like 6 issues left to finish that run, and I've got, I think there's a first volume, I think that's volume 2, and there's a volume 1 that I don't have any of. I think it was 5 issues. But that's it. That was my con haul, and it wasn't because I didn't look, because I definitely did. So that's why I say, like, if you're not looking for mystery boxes and you're not looking to support random artists, which do support random artists, but if you're not looking for those things and you're looking for actually shopping for comic books, this was okay, but it wasn't great. So that's really it. That's my Comic-Con trip report. It's a good convention. The organization is there, the passion is there, everybody was knowledgeable, they knew what they were doing. Technical issues with the venue, like the sound system. It's really the sound system that was my primary issue, is that they had this big hall and they did not have adequate sound in this thing. It would have been nice if they'd had some video screens, but you can't ask for video screens. That's kind of an investment, like that's a big deal. So hopefully attendance for this thing was successful enough that there will be an Atlanta Comic-Con 2 2019. It seemed like there were a lot of people there. When we got there Saturday morning, I heard Friday was kind of underattended from what I heard. Saturday when we got there like before the gate opened, and it was you know, a couple hundred people, but by about 4 o'clock on Saturday, like it was a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people, like so many people that it was hard to walk anywhere. So that's good. I asked the people at the merch booth, because they were employed by Imaginarium, I asked how they thought it was going. They said today's been really good. Today's been what we had hoped for. So hopefully this convention was a success. I would go back again. I would be happy to go back for Atlanta Comic-Con next year if they do it again. Hopefully some of the issues will be resolved. But as far as just, it was a family-friendly convention. Everybody was nice. The people that were working it were polite. I never felt like I wasn't safe. It was just a really great, energizing, charging experience. Like, you go to these things to remind yourself, or I mean, I do. You go and you get reminded why you love these things in the first place, because there's so much passion. And I love passion. I'm all about passion. This channel is about passion. And so Atlanta Comic-Con had tons of passion. And that's the highest compliment that I can give it. Yeah, there's room for growth, but so much passion. So hopefully you were there. If you were, what did you think about it? Did you have any experiences that I didn't cover here? Have you been to any of the Imaginarium conventions in other parts of the country, like in the Florida conventions, the Midwest conventions? Did they have similar issues, and have they been worked out? Just jump into the conversation, because this channel is all about community and it's all about us. We love this stuff. We are family. We're all in this together. Whether we've met or not, we're in this together. So thank you for watching this video. I appreciate your time so much, and I will catch you later.